Welcome back to the vlog. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. I know that my family and I had a great time. It was good to see everyone back in the same house, under the same roof. No big arguments. That's really good. Thought there might be one or two, but no. We ended up going out and getting a tree. Zeus picked it out. Well, he picked out several. I told him just to mark the tree that he liked, and he marked about every tree in the tree farm. My youngest son made the final decision when he spotted a perfect Christmas tree off in the distance. We went over, checked it out, and it was definitely the winner. We took a little family photo. Zeus had a hard time keeping his eye on the camera. We got everyone back loaded up in the cars. This was a little bit sad because they spotted a few trees that he didn't have a chance to mark. But we headed on home, got things decorated, and it was really a good weekend. Anyway, let's get back into some poker. We're going to be over at Capital Casino playing in the 1-3 game, buying for $500, and off we go. Well, the first hour of poker was pretty dreadful. I ended up losing about $300 on about 10 hands that are just teeny hands and pretty damn boring, but raised pre-flop. One time I 3-bet pre-flop, and we just had a fold. Here we finally pick up a pair of kings, and the active player limps in front of me. I raised a 20. He's the only one that puts in the call. He's been playing just about every hand, and I haven't been able to beat him yet. I think I played like 3 hands against him, and he got the better of me each and every hand. This one, the flop comes 10-9-7 with 2 clubs. He checks over to me. I'm going to just go ahead and lead here. He doesn't have that much left. He has about 140 behind, and I want to set up a pot-sized shove on the turn. Turn card is a good one. It's a 5 of spades. Shouldn't really help complete anything. He most likely has some sort of pair or flush draw or some sort of straight draw. So when he checks it over to me again, I decide just to put them all in. He thinks for a while, and he does make the call. So just looking for another blank, I turn my hand over, and we get a 9 of spades on the end, and he shows 8-9 offsuit. Seems obvious I can't beat this guy. He's beating me and losing to everybody else. Maybe we can get it to turn around on this next hand. I raise king-jack offsuit, only get called by the player in seat 1. So we're going to go heads up to this flop with $31 in, and it comes out jack 10 deuce, all spades. Well, I know I have the king of spades and I have a jack, so that's a good combination there. I'm going to try to build a pot. I bet $20. He puts in the quick call. Turn card comes is the king of hearts. I do make top 2 now. Definitely not going to be slowing down. And since he's a little bit sticky and has been beating me every time, I figured he's willing to pay a little extra. So I put in a pot-sized bet of $70. Just trying to get max value out of all his draws. I'm sure he has something like maybe a queen of spades and a 4. I don't know. He's been playing pretty wild. He's probably thinking to himself, well, I'm not getting the right price to call, but hey, it's Doug. I can beat Doug. So he sticks in the $70, and we head off to a river, which comes a 4 diamonds. Well, maybe he made a pair with his queen 4. He checks it over. I'm just going to put the rest of the chips in. He only has like $60, $70 left, something like that. So I stick it in, and he thinks for a while. I'm going, oh, maybe he's going to call me with some lone pair. Come on. Give me some of my money back. But eventually he folds. I'm in the big blind with pocket 7s. There were 3 players that limped in early and mid position. Player on the button raises to 15. I get a call from the small blind. I decide to go ahead and make the call. Well, it's time to go set mining. There are going to be 5 or 6 players in this pot. It turns out there's going to be 5 because one of them actually folded, which was a little bit surprising because like nobody folds in the 1-3 game at Capital Casino. Flop comes out 5-5-3 with 2 spades. Not the greatest flop in the world. The player to my right in the small blind now leads right out for $30. This type of stab always feels like maybe a pair of 3s or some sort of straight or flush draw. I can't let the other players get in cheap, so I raised to 75. I'd rather be heads up with this player who I expected to be on a draw. Everyone else folds out. He puts in the call. So it's just going to be the two of us heading off to the turn. And I'm like 95% sure I have the best hand at this point. And just hoping that there's not going to be a spade on the turn. Turn card comes as a 10 of diamonds. It looks like a pretty good blank unless he had a 10 of spades in his hand. He checks it over. I'm going to put max pressure. I jam all in. He quickly folds, and we take this one down. It's been very quiet for the next hour or so, and haven't really got too much to play. Every time I open for 15, I get 4 or 5 callers. Every pot's being raised, so I decided to do something I rarely do, but some people say I do it too much anyway. I decided to limp in with pocket aces and hopefully get to do the old limp re-raise and maybe get it down to 2 or 3 players instead of facing 4 or 5. But just my luck, the first hand in over an hour that nobody decides to put in a raise and everyone decides to put in a call. Well, we have 7 people playing this hand and I am out of position with a pair of aces and I'm thinking to myself, if I don't flop a set, there's no way I'm going to get involved in this any further. The flop comes ace, jack, 10, rainbow. The smart play would be just to go ahead and lead out with this hand because, I'm blocking all the aces and I need protection against 6 other opponents. But I decided to check. Not the smartest move ever. I do have one opponent who decided to bet for me, which I'm very thankful for because my hand needs tons of protection because it's a pretty wet board. Instead of check raising like I'm probably supposed to, I just decided to put in a call. Yeah, not the wisest move. The low jack player is one of the better players at the table, and to lead out into 6 other players, I figure he has to have a pretty good hand here. So he can either have the lone ace, or he can have a hand like jack 10, or the dreaded king queen. So I'm a little bit scared of him having king queen, but I kind of want to see what he's going to do on the turn before I get committed. So when the 9 of hearts comes, I check. He thinks for a bit and bets $30, which is half pot, but I think, now I might be wrong, I think if he had king queen, he would bet a little bit larger, like $45 or $50, because there is a flush draw out there. There's a lot of 2-pair combinations. So I'm thinking he's more like leaning towards jack 10 than king queen, and I raise to 130. I'm happy to see a little bit of concern on my opponent's face. If he had king queen, he would not be concerned at all. He would just try to figure out how to get the most money in the pot. The river's a beautiful jack of diamonds, so if he had jack 10, he just filled up. Now to figure out how to get the most money in, I could possibly just jam here, but I think just a standard bet would be sufficient. If he has jack 10, he's coming over the top every single time. So I bet 230. He has about 480-ish behind, and I expect him to put it all in at this time. He announces that he's going all in. He grabs some chips, put them in. I make the quick call. He turns over pocket 10s for a full house. Of course, my pocket aces has that beat. And we win a huge pot with a awkward line. I continued playing for another 30, 40 minutes and did win a couple other small pots, but the game kind of dried up a little bit. A couple of the action players left and a couple tougher regs sat down. So I was happy to be even, and I decided to call it a day. Come back the next day, same table, same seat. Here we go. I'm off to another slow start, but at least I'm not buried this time. I'm just hovering around break even. There's a player that limps in early position. Player to my right now raises to 20. He has a pretty good sized stack. I got suited connectors. I like to play against big stacks. I put in the call, and so does the limper. So we're going 3 ways to this flop with $64 in the center. Flop comes out King, Jack, 6 with 2 clubs, 1 heart. First 2 opponents check. It's to me. I don't think I have very much here. I'm just going to check it back, basically surrendering any chance at this pot. Turn card comes as an ace of hearts. It gives me a little bit of hope. I have a flush draw now, not much else. My opponent to my right bets out for $45. Now, he's a pretty good player. In fact, one of the best in the room. And if he bets out for $45, he could be doing this with an ace. But he can also be doing this with a lot less than an ace because he knows it hits his range and it probably shouldn't hit my range. All that being said, I got a flush draw. He has a pretty good size stack. I got a little over 500 in mine. I'm going to go ahead and make the call for the 45. Hopefully we can spike a heart on the river and maybe win a good sized pot if he overvalues his hand. The other player folds out and we see a river card of a 4 diamonds. He checks it over to me. I thought if he was going to bet maybe a 1-pair type of hand, I can try to steal it. But since he checked, I think I'm just going to have to surrender here. Not going to get him to fold an ace. But he shows 3 deuce of hearts, so we win with 9 high. And I'm sure you're wondering why my opponent didn't bluff at it, or why I didn't bluff at it. We're probably thinking the same thing, that if I have an ace or if he had an ace, that neither one of us is going to fold to a single bet unless it's just completely oversized. So if you were to bluff, it would have to be a really, really big bet, and it probably wasn't worth the risk. A player who's been very frustrated, running a little bit bad, he has about a $110 stack. He opened for $45. Huge opening size. Sometimes I would just fold to this, right? Because he's representing a big pair. But since he's a little tilted, I thought he might be doing this with ace queen or something. I got ace king. I'm willing to gamble for $110. In fact, I was willing to gamble for a little bit more. So I decided just to call him, hoping to get an overcall from one of the other players, but they all folded out. So we're going heads up to a flop. That comes ace king 5. He bets out the majority of his chips, and I'm not going anywhere. He only has like $2 left behind. He's having a rough day. I'm not going to put them all in. I'm just going to make the call for the $65. Turn card is a queen. He puts his last $2 in there. Definitely not folding for $2. River to deuce. He shows pocket jacks, and we win this with a gift of ace king. A good player who won like the last 3 or 4 hands opens for $15 from the +1 position. He has a $2,000 stack. I got about 700 in mine. I got pocket pair in the big blind. I'm going to go set mining. So we see a flop with $31 in. That comes out 10-6-3 rainbow. Not a bad flop for pocket fives. If he has like big suited cards, then I'm in good shape. He bets for $20. I can't go anywhere for $20, so I put in the call. Turn card now is a 7 of diamonds. I pick up a straight draw. I check it over to him. He checks it back. Kind of interesting that he checked it back. Makes me feel like he might not have too much. River card comes as a 3 of hearts. I could bet out here, but I decided to just check it over to him, see if he wants to take a stab at it. He does, and he picks a size of $50. He could have slow played something, but I just have to be right 30% of the time by making this call. So I stick in the $50, and he turns over ace 10. You know, I have to say, I kind of like the way my opponent played this hand. He figured his hand was worth 2 streets of value. He'll get the bet in on the flop, and he doesn't have bet the turn. He can get the value on the river, either with me trying to bluff at it or with him getting a little extra value from middling pairs like pocket fives. Well, it's my turn to play ace 10 offsuit. There was a early limper, another call, and I raised to 25 on the button. Only get called by the first limper. So just the two of us headed off to a flop of jack 8-4 rainbow. It's not a horrible flop. I mean, if the player doesn't have a jack, they probably can't continue. He checks it over. I bet 25, and he puts in the call. So I'm a little worried that he might have a jack, maybe some sort of straight draw. Turn card comes as an 8 of spades. He checks again. And the question is whether to bet or not. I think betting is fine here. It denies equity to someone who might be on some sort of draw like 9-10, Queen 10, those type of hands. It also opens up the door being check raised by someone who has an 8 or wants to represent that they have an 8. And they'll probably just call if they have maybe a jack. I don't think they're going to be putting in a raise. So after some thought, I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and continue for a half-size pot bet of $50. Looking back on this, I don't mind either checking it or actually betting larger to deny some additional equity from the draws. And if you get check raised, you can just dump it. He does make the call. River card comes as an ace of diamonds. I already decided if an obvious draw didn't come in here that I was just going to bomb the river. But now that I have showdown value, am I going to bet for value? I think if I bet for value, it'll kind of like smell like it's a value bet, and my opponent's good enough to get away from that. If I was going to bluff before, might as well bluff now. And if I was going to bomb it before, I might as well bomb it now. If he has a jack, he might think that I'm totally out of line. If he's playing an 8, well, congratulations to him. He slow played me to death and he's going to win a big pot. But I don't think he's going to pay off a value bet. I do believe he can pay off a big bet. So even though it seems counterintuitive that you want to bet small to get a little bit of value, I'm going to go for the gusto, and I decided just to rip it all in. Unfortunately, my opponent didn't have too much of a decision. I think he just missed his straight draw, and he mucks quickly. The hijack opens for $20. I got a pair of 9s in the cutoff. It's questionable whether to 3-bet this or not. I decided just to call. If he opened for 15, I'll probably put in a 3-bet. But since he used a little bit of larger sizing, I think he might have a little bit stronger of a hand. Flop comes king, 3, deuce with 2 hearts. He leads in for $25. King is a scary card, of course, but I don't think I can give this up yet, so I put in the call. Turn card comes as a deuce of diamonds, introduces a second flush draw. He decides to check it over to me. I think I probably have the best hand at this point, unless he's maybe has pocket 10s or pocket jacks. I check it back. River card is the jack of hearts. It does bring in the front door flush. He checks again. I'm just going to take my showdown value. He shows a pair of 5s, and 9s beat 5s. Well, this is the following day. I'm at the same table, not in the same seat. I'm in seat 4 instead of seat 3. Seat 3 opens for $3. I got pocket 7s. This is my first hand I played. I raised to $15. I get multiple callers for the $15. Only the small blind seems to find a fold. The big blind thinks for a while and also makes the call for the $15. Now the limper from under the gun decides he's just going to rip it all in there. He has $144 left in his stack. Now the question is what to do with my hand. Let's go with option 1. Option 1 would be folding. I got $15 invested. The guy does the old limp re-raise all in for $140. I got like 4 callers behind me that were willing to put $15 in the pot. It's not wise to go up against all those players. The other one would be to put in a call. I got a pair of 7s. This guy could be doing this a lot with maybe like ace high type of hands, ace jack, ace 10. Just decided to go with his hand. And maybe he's hoping to get some folds from all those $15 stragglers. And of course, the other option is just to shove all in, which I chose to do. Trying to eliminate the people behind me, get all that dead money into the pot, and then just go for my flip against all those big overcards. That's what I did. Everyone else folds out, and we get a flop that comes 9-7-3 with a deuce and an 8 on the river. Of course, I got a set. He shows that he had ace jack, and we win with pocket 7s that made a set. if that player did not jam all in, we would have won an even bigger pot because someone had a straight draw, someone had a flush draw, and someone had top pair and the backdoor flush draw. So all those would have been paying me off, but I'll be happy with a $345 pot. Over the next hour, I ended up winning a couple small pots here. I had ace king, raise, pre-flop, got called, bet the flop, everyone folded. Then I pick up pocket aces, same deal, raise pre-flop, get 2 calls, flop comes, I bet the flop, they all fold. Now this one's a little bit different. I had queen jack of clubs. I opened for a raise. I get a very, very tight player who puts in a 3-bet to $60. This is always a very, very good hand. And of course, even though I love playing hands like queen jack against a nit, it's just a fold. One player limps in for $3. Next player, who's an aggressive player, raises to 15. I get 2 callers and myself, so we're going to go 4 ways to this flop with 66 in the pot. I got a decent hand, ace 10 suited in the small blind, definitely worth to defend. Flop comes out jack 10 8 with 1 heart, so I got second pair, decent kicker, and a backdoor flush draw. I check it over. Player bets for $20. I have second pair with a decent kicker on a wet board. If I didn't have the backdoor flush draw, I'd probably just let this one go. But this player, I'm going to go ahead and make the call, see if we can get something good. A jack of clubs comes on the turn. I check it over to him. If he has a jack, I expect him to bet it, but he checks it back. So I'm fairly sure I have the best hand at this point. River card comes to 6 of diamonds. I'm going to bet small just to get some value out of his pocket pairs. He makes a quick call, and I lost a lot of value because he actually had king 10 and would have paid off a bigger bet. This hand we're playing 5-handed. A couple players left. A couple players are waiting for the blind to go by. So there's 2 big blinds. I open for 15, and I get the player behind me and the 2 blinds call. So we're 60 in the pot, 4-handed, and the flop comes out queen jack 6 with 2 diamonds. I do have the nut flush draw. Sometimes I would bet this, and other times I'm just going to check this back. This one I decided to check it back. Turn card comes, makes me the nuts. 7 of diamonds, great card. Player to my right bets for 25. I'm just going to put in the call. There's arguments for raising at this point, but I figure if a blank comes on the river, he's going to lead into me again. Unfortunately, it's not quite a blank. It's a king of spades, so it's an overcard to the board. So if he had a queen there, he's not going to be as confident. My opponent thinks for a while and puts out like $50. It's kind of a blocker size bet, maybe trying to squeeze a little value out of someone who's not a believer. I'm going to, of course, raise. I have the nuts. I make it 160. So it's 320 in the pot. My opponent has to call another $110. I think he probably would call if it wasn't a king. I think he might be afraid of maybe a straight get in there. Maybe me just having a pair of kings will beat his hand. So after some thought, he decides just to let it go. And we're going to end up taking down this last pot of the day and cashing out for a pretty decent week. So we're up $990. Not bad, considering got off to a pretty slow start that first day before we picked up those pocket aces and played them poorly and won a huge pot. I do appreciate everyone making it to the end of the video. Thanks very much for all your support. As some of you have noticed that I have been making some short videos. One of them I decided to have a little bit more fun with, and that one's been getting the best reaction. I'm sure those of you who have seen it know which one it was. So going forward, I'm just going to try to have a little bit more fun with it and bring you a different aspect instead of just the analytical side of things. And if you guys are ever in the Sacramento area and want to come by and say hello, well, you can know where exactly to find me. I'll be at Capital Casino. come say hi anytime. I'm always happy to meet fans of the vlog, and we can talk, we can chat. Maybe we'll even play together and you have a chance to get some of my Dougie dough. So thanks for watching. Appreciate your support. And until next time, good luck at the tables, and we'll see you back here next week.